Where faith, culture, and politics collide. This is Give Me Liberty Media. This is the Tyler Morgan Show on Relentless Daring Media Network. Welcome back to Land of Bourbon and Bad Decisions. This is the Tyler Morgan Show live and direct on twitch.tv/Tyler Morgan Show, or maybe you're checking this out later on YouTube, youtube.com/at the Tyler Morgan Show. Be sure to hit the like the video, subscribe, hit the bell, get the notifications, or maybe you're listening to this. Maybe you're listening to this on podcast. You can always find me on any podcast platform: Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. If it has a podcast listening ability, you can find me there. So check me out and be sure to subscribe or follow, however you like, and rate and review. Before I get into the festivities that is today's or this week's news, let me tell you all about the one, the only, find my little button here, beard oil. Yes, beard oil. Find it, bluecollarbeardsman.com. This is locally made, handcrafted small business beard oil that supports and celebrates the hardworking men and women that make the world go round. And I say women because, there are women in these blue collar jobs. And if they're growing a beard, maybe they, have a side gig with the Ringling Brothers. I don't know. Or maybe, maybe they're packing a little bit more than the average woman. I don't know. But, no judgments. No judgments. This is a judgment-free zone. I'm joking. There's all sorts of judgment. But Blue Collar Beardsmen, they go out of their way to handcraft the beard oils that will, take care of your facial hair. Yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll notice that I'm just kind of stubbly with a kind of a military issue mustache. I decided I was going to do something a little different for a while. Then, maybe start growing the beard back as it starts to cool off. But again, even with the little bit of a soup strainer up there, I want to keep it soft, supple, not itchy and brittle and breaks off and end up with facial hair all in your teeth. But it conditions the skin so you don't get itchy underneath your beard, because I know a lot of people who they could have a really nice beard, but they hate growing it because their face itches. They don't like it. Well, Blue Collar Beardsmen, their oils go out of their way, or they are engineered, designed, if you will, to condition the skin, condition the hair that way. It keeps everything all nice and fresh and soft. And it's a great product. I highly recommend it. I use it. And I won't offer you something. I won't tell you about something that I do not use myself. So check them out today. BlueCollarBeardsman.com. All right. So getting into the wild and wacky news of the week. So Kamala Harris finally had a sit-down interview with CNN. And we all kind of figured going into this interview that it was going to be softball central. But despite that, Kamala really didn't fare too well. Lots of word salad and non-answers, and she had Tim Walz there as her emotional support defensive coordinator. But more than that, as I was getting ready for my show prep. I didn't want to talk about the interview itself, but something that did catch my eye was how the body language of her interview, and it caught the attention of body language experts. This is from Just the News. Body language experts found that during Vice President Kamala Harris' first interview since announcing her candidacy for president this summer, she was uncomfortable, hollow, and not confident in her answers. Harrison Walls sat down for a joint interview with CNN's Dana Bash on Thursday, where the Democratic presidential nominee discussed her first priorities for day one in office. Day one in office, if elected to the White House, her changing positions on policy issues, and her running mate's military service record. Upon analyzing the interview, body language experts found that Harris was struggling to answer questions and sometimes to appear to be dishonest in her responses. Greg Hartley, a former interrogator in the U.S. Army, told Just the News on Friday that Harris was, quote, overprepared for sure, end quote, as anyone would be for this role. This is an abrupt change, Hartley said, noting that her first comments are going to be scrutinized by everyone. During the interview, Bash mentioned former President Donald Trump's suggestion that she happened to turn black. Harris answered, same old tired playbook. Next question, please. Hartley explained that when she avoided the Trump question, her body language changed as she broke eye contact and wanted to say something, but was likely prepped to avoid responding to Trump on his level, which was a wise decision on her part. Trying to be above the fray. If I was in some sort of interview like this and someone came out swinging with something that my opponent or a naysayer said, and I felt that it was beneath me, I wouldn't engage in it. So I'm going to give her props, from a strategic standpoint of not engaging. So good on you for that one, Kamala. He added that when people look down and right, it's an emotional access cue, whereas looking down and to the left is internal voicing when they're trying to figure out how to navigate what to say here. Thus, when Harris looked down and to the right after the Trump question, it was about thinking what not to say, while looking down left was how to navigate language, Hartley said. She was prepped a lot to not engage. He added, run and run on not being Trump because otherwise she had no content. She's hollow, Hartley said. Quote, if a person says one thing on Tuesday, another on Wednesday, then mentions their moral compass, but doesn't explain it or why they changed, you should question their sincerity, end quote. Hartley was also discussed how Harris and Walls would chaff and redirect, where they would spout enough words about something not related to the topic to get to a line of topic to veer away. He added that Walls was uncomfortable about how his military record has come out. Hartley is an Army veteran and said that he is, quote, not a fan of anyone targeting a veteran's service, while also knowing Walls was deceptive about his rank when he left the National Guard. He said that Walls was at the interview to put Harris at ease, to show solidarity. He explained that Harris is predictable when she's uncomfortable, as she smiles, laughs, nods, and speaks in a word salad. She has no content at all, he added. She is not good at chaff and redirect, Hartley said, adding that she goes into a fight or flight when she's uncomfortable and cackles. Yeah, we've all heard the Kamala cackle. I'm not going to play it. It's almost as bad as Hillary Clinton's, which is pretty rough. Instead of playing into the politics of it, he said that people should ask themselves, if this is the person you're leaving your children with, how would you feel? would you trust they know what they're doing? Body language expert Susan Constantine said on Fox News on Friday that Harris didn't look confident during the interview. When I look at her overall demeanor, she does not carry the confidence or the presidential appearance in her demeanor to command in her position. So, for everything I saw for last night, she definitely needs to make some tweaks into her body language to appear more confident. The fact that she's looking down a lot removes a lot of the fluidity from and the authenticity. Once she struggles, you start to see a lot of head bobbing. You know that the head bobbling is what part of my file, my subconscious, am I going to pull out? Which ones are my answers? She couldn't come up with a crystal clear answer, and that's why she tends to babble. End quote. Scott Rouse, another body language expert, told Newsmax on Thursday Harris had a bobblehead motion as she talked, which she does that a lot. If you ever notice, as her head's going around, she has crazy hand gestures. She's a gesticulator. I'm a gesticulator, but I don't gesticulate to that point. And just for good measure, gesticulate. I know it's going to catch a lot of you off. Oh my God, he said gesticulate like 700 times. He explained that this indicates she had inner dialogue going on. We see tons of that with both of them, with Kamala and Walz. We see that inner dialogue, just thinking about what they're going to say next. Rouse added this conversation Harris had with Bash, quote, is one of the ones where she's sort of on the fly, making this up as she goes, which, unless she has some pre-planned statements for Donald Trump when they debate on the 10th. So this is the 31st. So technically 11 days from now, really by the time the podcast and everything is published, it'll be 10 days from then. We're going to see a lot of it. We saw a lot of it in the 2020 debates. The only line that she really had was when she called out Joe Biden on his history of racism. That was the one time where it was not a word salad answer. When she knew when she got the opportunity, she was going to smack him around. And so she had a battle plan drawn out on what she was going to say, how she was going to say it, and to what effect it would have. And I mean, it was a hell of a blow during that debate. She made him look like garbage. But unfortunately, the rest of her performance was smelly hot garbage. Anyways, he also said that when Harris discussed what she thought thought when she found out that President Joe Biden was dropping out of the race, quote, we're hearing what we call fading facts. As she talks, she gets quieter and quieter. She talks about how she was concerned with him. And quite often when someone's being deceptive, they'll get quieter as they get to their answer. We hear that here big time. We don't see any of the cues that let us know she's actually being said. This is a put on face. End quote. Meanwhile, Judy James, a communication and body language analyst, told the Daily Mail on Friday that Harris answered questions with, quote, a tone of curt decisiveness as she embraced a new look of direct answers and power poses. Bum, bum, bum. Yes, yeah, so you have several body language experts who are like, yeah, she didn't look like she did really well. Then you have, Miss Judy. You have Miss Judy. I wonder if she's from Pennsylvania. I wonder if that is Judy from Pennsylvania. But you have Judy who just buys into it hook, line, and sinker. Now, you look at who these other sources talk to. Just the News, Fox News, Newsmax. And you probably are willing to accept they might have a bit of a political bent to their analysis. I don't know anything about the other three body language experts that were cited. But Judy, Judy, I do believe you are definitely making your commentary out of a political want. Your political lean is telling you that, oh my gosh, she was just so darn good. And I think that you might want to step back a second and think about if you were evaluating the same person who you did not know from Adam, and they were answering in ways like Kamala was answering, and her body position and her body language was the exact same, or body language of the person that you don't know from Adam was the exact same as Kamala's. Would you give the same the same analysis? I don't know if you would. I think if Donald Trump gave the exact same answers in the exact same way, Judy would be like, "Oh my gosh, look at how he was answering. He's just awful. Oh my goodness. He's such a liar. Everything about him is just a lie, la 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 lie." James said that Harris's reaction to Trump appears that she's acting as though he were still in office and she's the opposition. As when When asked what she would do on her first day in the White House, her body language seems to suggest she has not set foot in the place so far. End quote. Yeah, it's crazy though that you know she cannot get through an interview, and I admit there's times where doing this podcast because this is 1 bajillion% unscripted. I will use filler words, like, well, well, and I get it. Being extemporaneous is hard. I do this for an hour on Saturday nights, and there's a lot of reporting coming out that it looks like this interview may have been pre-recorded and then edited to get the best parts. Which, if that was the case, holy malfeasance, Batman. CNN, don't you know what journalism is? You ask questions, you get the answers, and then you put it out there for people to decide what to make of it. Like I said, there are people making, mm, pardon me, there are people making the accusations that I said it was pre recorded, which it probably was. I do not believe it was a live interview. And so pre-recorded, and they edited out the worst parts. That seems well kind of on brand. There's several news outlets, if you would like to call them that have done this in the past and gotten caught doing it, where someone is giving an answer and there's a cut in the middle of it where there's just enough of a slight change you can pick it up where they're giving an answer and they're leaning forward being really engaged, and all of a sudden while still giving the answer they lean back really quick. It's like, huh, that's right, I didn't see them lean back. Odd. But yeah, that's just one of those weird things. And while it would be nice to actually get Kamala to do a real, just live on the level without someone there as a crutch, pardon me, interview. I think the closest we are going to get to that is the presidential debate. And the here's the thing, with that, I was going to discuss this last week when all this was breaking about, oh, Donald Trump's trying to back out again. Well, I couldn't do that because our house is like a lightning magnet. Mm, pardon me. There was a yawn in the middle of that snuck up on me. Our house is like a lightning magnet, not a maggot. And yeah, we had a lot of storms last week in the morning and it knocked out the router. That's my third router, fourth router in like 3 years. We go through a lot of routers around here. That's even plugged into a surge protector, they still get fried. It's the dangest, darndest things. But yeah, so I was going to talk about that. Like Kamala was trying to weasel her way out of the debate by having the rules that she had already agreed to. Well, they're the rules that Joe Biden had agreed to. They will be standing, that they will be, having the mics muted when it's not your turn. And she was coming out all, we need to be seated and the mics need to be live, because I think she was wanting a moment like she had with Mike Pence, where she got to drop that, Mr. Vice President, I'm talking, when Pence tried to step in and correct something that about his record that she had said. And I think she wanted the mics to be hot so she could have one of those moments with Donald Trump doing what Donald Trump does best and blah, 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 blah. And I think that little bit of leverage that would give her a benefit that, oh my gosh, Donald Trump is talking over this poor woman and kind of garnering sympathy. They took that out of her toolkit. So she wouldn't be able to use it. And I think that was one of the reasons why it was sounding like she was about to back out. But Donald Trump has prevailed. And as a result, they will be standing and they will have the mics off and muted between segments. So I would love to be able to pick up, Donald Trump saying something and Kamala off in the background. Mr. President, I need to correct you. You're wrong on that, Mr. President. And it would just be so hilarious, because that's kind of what happened with the Joe Biden debate, where Donald Trump is talking and then Joe Biden is the one trying to talk over Donald Trump with his mic muted. And then ABC turned the mic on and blah, blah, blah. Then their rules kind of went out the window. My goodness, I've got a case of the yawns tonight. My wife and I had a craft show for the last 2 days, and it was exhausting. I'm actually amazed I'm awake right now. But anyways, on with the show, shall we? But first, let me tell you about one of my favorite beverages in the world. No, 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 not those lovely bottles of whiskey and the amazingly good bottle of tequila, which they don't pay me to talk about. So I'm amazed I don't get yelled at about not having the brands blurred out. But my other favorite drink in the whole wide world, coffee. Ah, yes. Coffee is amazing. It wakes me up in the morning. It puts pep in my step. And honestly, like 90% of my water consumption while I'm at work is through coffee. And at work, they have this horrible flavorless swill that is just so overpowered in strength that I love black coffee, but I have to water it down. I have to thin the mix a little bit. I have to put cream and sugar in it. It's just really hard to drink. But coffee that's not hard to drink is coffee from American Pride Roasters. American Pride Roasters is a small homegrown company. I seem to have a theme for these small companies. Uh, and Dave orders the finest beans from around the world. And then he sorts them out. And then when you order your coffee, that is when they get roasted. They will be roasted to order. They will be, well, okay. They're not going to be roasted to order to get the flavor profiles that he has worked very hard to develop. He's going to roast them the way he roasts them to get that flavor. But he's going to pick the beans from Ethiopia, from Sumatra, from Nicaragua, wherever he gets his beans from, and then he will blend them, he will roast them, then he will grind them to order. So if you want whole beans because you have your own fancy coffee grinder at home, you could buy whole bean. If you want it coarse roasted because you do the cold brew coffee, you weirdo, or French press. So he's going to sit in that hot water for longer than just a drip coffee maker. He will do the coarse grind. He'll do the super fine grind for your espresso machine. He'll do just a medium grind for your average drip coffee pot like I have. Check them out today. So many great flavors of coffee. A time for choosing a blend that honors Ronald Reagan. One of my personal favorites, the Calvin Coolidge. And when I'm feeling especially spicy and want some just more caffeine than I know what to do with, I get the Thomas Page Age of Reason remix, which is 100% Robusta beans. So while they might not be as flavorful as Arabica, they've got the caffeine to just, woo! It lights you on fire. It's great. Check them out today. Check out all their flavors of coffee at aprcoffee.com. Historically great coffee. All right, I clicked the right button, turn that off. But so getting back into the news, the wacky, weird, and wild. The title of this episode, The Left Hates the Constitution. And if you're a conservative, you know Democrats who you could say, okay, we have some fundamental disagreements on X, Y, and Z. But when it comes to A, B, and C, being the U.S. Constitution, this is where we agree. You know, freedom of speech, right to bear arms. The Congress does this, the executive does this, judicial does this, the states get the rest of it. That's great. But we're not talking about Democrat with some ideological differences that are you can discuss, and maybe you'll never come to a full agreement on, but you'll at least be like, hey, I understand where you're coming from on this, but I cannot agree with you, but you're still my friend. But I'm talking about the left. I'm talking about the people who they say they're a Democrat in public. They say they're a liberal in public. Then they go home and they fap away to a picture of Karl Marx. Well, these people hate the Constitution with a passion because it restricts the power of government. And if you are lovingly handling yourself to a picture of Karl Marx while reading the writings of Engels, you are not a Democrat. You are not a liberal. In fact, liberalism is your enemy because you want everything to be controlled by the freaking state. And the only way everything can be controlled by the state is if you take our Constitution and throw it out the window. Well, Chris, I almost said Matthews, Chris Hayes from MSNBC, he was having a bit of a conniption over one of these constitutional checks that we have when it comes to the election of the president, the Electoral College, because direct democracy, they think, is better than, a republic. So this is from Fox News. MSNBC host rages after seeing polls showing Trump leading, calls Electoral College a suicide pact.
No, you look like an idiot.
That's not the one I wanted, but it will work. All right, so MSNBC host Chris Hayes fumed over new poll results showing former President Trump as the favorite to win the Electoral College and therefore the presidency in November. On his X account Friday with All In with Chris Hayes, the anchor blasted recent poll results from famed pollster Nate Silver. It's Nate Silver. If you ever listen to Nate Silver, he's not exactly a bastion of conservative thought. In fact, he's a pretty lefty in his own right. I like that, lefty in his own right. Showing that Harris would most likely beat Trump in the national popular vote if the election were held today, though Trump would win the Electoral College. Now keep in mind, we're 2 weeks away from early voting starting anywhere in the country, which early voting being 6 weeks before election day is retarded. I know. Oh my God, he said the forbidden R word on his podcast. Oh, he's so horrible. I know. I use the word a lot. Sue me. I'm old. I don't care. It's clear as day. The Electoral College is, to quote the great Justice Jackson, a national suicide pact. Oh, yeah, I had to click buttons to read more. The media pundit statement referenced a quote from Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson, who wrote in 1949 that the Supreme Court, quote, will convert the Constitutional Bill of Rights into a suicide pact, end quote. If it doesn't balance its doctrine logic with a little practical wisdom. I'd click that. That'd take me to Twitter and get me off the story. Hayes seemed to be using the quote to suggest the U.S.'s commitment to deciding presidential elections using the Electoral College system, which progressive Democratic lawmakers believe is obsolete, will needlessly result in the catastrophe of Trump returning to the White House. For shame, for shame. The poll Hayes expressed frustration over was Silver's latest election model, which was shared by finance journalist Geiger Capital on X on Thursday. Describing the model, the X account stated, just like that, Trump 52%, Harris 47%. Trump is now back to being the favorite in Nate Silver's election model. Harris is favored to win the popular vote, which does not matter. The popular vote has never mattered. We do not have one national election. We have 50 we have 50 state elections. This is just really going to get me fired up because, again, I've explained this before. Civics teachers apparently have failed to explain. Oh, I'm going to need tequila to get through this. Oh my goodness. So, I dropped my cork. So you know I'm not playing around. Here's my Glencairn. There is my tequila. I hope you enjoyed the ASMR of me pouring tequila right next to the microphone. So, that's so good. Your civics teachers, if you think that the national popular vote means a dadgum thing, because it doesn't. The whole point of the Electoral College is to mirror the House of Representatives and the Senate. That is why the number of representatives and the number of Senate seats you have combined is how many electoral votes that your state gets. Now, there was a time when electors would go to Washington to cast their electoral votes. And when they did this, they weren't necessarily locked in. This was a slate of electors chosen by the governor or the state house, however the state chose to do it. And they would go, well, Bob, I'm going to vote for this presidential candidate. Well, Alan, I appreciate your gumption, but I do believe this candidate is better than your candidate, so I'm casting my ballot for them. And that's how it was for a long time. Until I don't have an exact date on this. I didn't do any history research, but there was a decision made that the state would choose a slate of electors for this party. A slate of the parties would choose their slate of electors. Republicans choose them. The Democrats choose them. The Green Party over here chooses these ones, whatever the case may be. And then the candidate that wins that state, their party's slate of electors, goes to Washington and casts their vote for whatever for their party, basically. Donald Trump would get all of Missouri's electoral votes. If Kamala wins, Kamala would get all of Missouri's electoral votes. So, yeah, there has been a lot of changes done with the Electoral College, but it still exists not to undermine a national election, but as a coalition building device. So if you know you're not going to win a certain state and their electors, why go there? It's like, well, that state, we think we can flip, so we're going to campaign the hell out of that state. I think we can win this state. I'm going to campaign like hell in that one. I'm going to go to the states I know I'm going to win to continue to build support and maybe start giving speeches and campaigning in areas that I might not have as good of a chance to show that I care about these areas. Like if Donald Trump were to do a campaign speech open to the public in downtown St. Louis and get as many St. Louis residents, not just out of towners, but St. Louis residents to come in and do a town hall with them, I'm not saying he would flip St. Louis. Not at all. But he might flip a few people by showing that, look, I care. I'm here. I want to hear your gripes, complaints, and bitches about what's going on with the country. I think it would be great if Republicans went to places where they're not exactly liked and were to campaign and do town halls with people who might not agree with them to get a feel and let those people get a feel for who you are as a candidate. That is why Electoral College exists, to build coalitions. It's the reason why in parliamentary systems, you have members of parliament who glad hand and backslap and wheel and deal and horse trade in order to get, well, your party is farther right than mine. Your party's farther left than mine. We have a lot more in common than with those a-holes over there. So you should join us So that way we can put this guy in power. It's the same thing, just on a much grander scale than in a parliamentary procedure. So Chris Hayes goes off on this. You have groups like I don't even know what's called anymore, but basically, if your state agrees to it and they have enough states who sign on for it, if the winner of the national popular vote was Donald Trump, and there's enough states doing this that now it's binding, they could say they have to go, crap. Donald Trump won the popular vote. Now he gets our electors at the Electoral College. Son of a, that would never happen. They would never flip their vote for Donald Trump. But yeah, if Kamala Harris wins and their state went for Donald Trump, suddenly, even though Donald Trump had the majority of that state and has rightfully won the state's electoral slate, they would go, we're giving our votes to Kamala. It's undermined because the second half of this, when it comes to the left hating the Constitution and the checks and balances they put in place, they want direct democracy. Direct democracy is leading to chaos. We've seen this in Florida, where Florida passed their 6 week 6 week heartbeat bill. So no abortions after 6 weeks. Okay. Well, now they have Amendment 4. Amendment 4 is a ballot referendum. This is not something that was, passed by the state house and is now needs to be ratified by the state, by the population of the state. This is straight up. They went to places where they knew they would get the signatures. They got the signatures, submitted them, got the issue on the ballot that would then enshrine abortion up until birth in the Florida Constitution. So, that's kind of a big deal when you can have ballot referendums that upend duly passed laws in the state, and not just repeal a law, go above and beyond and make an amendment. So that way now you have to amend the Constitution again to have that state constitution fixed, and it turns into a giant headache. Missouri has the same thing going on. Missouri has a ballot referendum to legalize all abortions, even though our Senate and House and governor went through the proper steps and passed a law essentially banning abortion in Missouri. So Planned Parenthood and their cronies went to places that really love abortion: St. Louis, Kansas City. And they were able to get the signatures required to put it on the ballot that would allow full reproductive rights, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to Google this. Missouri Amendment. I know Florida, it's Amendment 4. Missouri Amendment. on abortion. Amendment 3, the Right to Reproductive Freedom Initiative. A yes vote supports amending Missouri Constitution to provide the right for reproductive freedom, which is defined as the right to make and carry out decisions about all matters relating to reproductive health care, including but not limited to prenatal care. You are not exempted from making prenatal care choices if you're pregnant. Childbirth. I don't think there's anything that's really prohibited in Missouri when it comes to childbirth. If you choose a hospital and to do natural childbirth in the hospital, you can do that. If you want to do birth in the hospital with an epidural, you can do that. You want to go to a midwife or a doula and do an at-home birth in a baby in a little kid's toddler tub or a toddler pool because you've heard about how just amazing a water birth is. You can do that in Missouri when it comes to childbirth. Postpartum care. No one is preventing you from getting postpartum care in Missouri or to not get postpartum care if you don't want it. Here's what really implies abortion care. Again, the right to make carry out decisions about all matters relating to reproductive health care, including abortion. Now, all matters. What does that mean? In violation of the original Roe, the original interpretation of Roe, that you can have abortion, you can have, the original Roe said that late term abortions, third trimester until due date is a no-go. Yet that's been ignored by so many states. But now this would guarantee abortion up until, you're in the delivery room, you're going into labor, second thought, I don't want this baby. Miscarriage care. There is nothing in Missouri law that is preventing you from getting care after suffering a miscarriage. In fact, if you're concerned that you're going to be arrested because you're having a miscarriage, or you did have a miscarriage, but your body has not expelled the baby that has died, there's no one in Missouri that's going to turn you in if you're 10 weeks along, you suffer a miscarriage. The baby has not been expelled, so you have to get a D&C to remove the dead baby. If your child dies in utero and is near complete term, no one is going to say, your baby has to stay in there for 3 weeks till the due date. Then we can induce. No, they won't do that. They use all these weird stories that mathematically don't make any sense or come from doctors whose legal departments are so retarded that they can't figure out what the state's law on treating an ectopic pregnancy is. They can't figure out what the state's law on treating a baby that died in utero. How do you figure that out? So you have stuff like this, and providing this, all right, miscarriage care and respectful birthing conditions. If you don't have a right to respectful birthing conditions, if you go into labor out in the woods on a hike, guess what? Your birthing condition is not going to be particularly respectful when you're giving birth to your baby out on the Katy Trail. You're climbing, Montauk in Missouri, and suddenly you go into labor, you don't really have a right to complain about your birthing conditions because you should have known not to been hiking that when you're 8 months along, you silly person. Ugh, getting twitchy eyelid here. And providing that the state legislature may enact laws that regulate abortion after. Okay, and provided the state legislature may enact laws that regulate abortion after fetal viability, which is defined in the initiative as, in the good faith judgment of treating healthcare professional, and based on particular facts of the case, there is significant likelihood that fetuses sustain survival outside the uterus without the application of extraordinary medical measures. So, what's their definition of extraordinary medical measures? I want to set my phone down where I shouldn't have set my phone down. And it scared the bejesus out of me because it started making all sorts of weird noises. What is their definition of viability? 21 weeks is now pretty viable, but you can't ban after 21. You can't ban before 21 weeks because that baby has to be on oxygen. That 20-week-old baby that's on oxygen should have been, fair game for abortion. And this exists because of laws and amendments that allow for ballot initiatives. Earlier this year, Missouri's legislature tried to kill ballot initiatives in Missouri because the people who come up with these stupid ballot initiatives are never conservatives. Marijuana is legal for recreation use in Missouri because lefty ballot initiative. Every stupid amendment made to the Missouri Constitution in the last 10 years via ballot initiative has come from lefty nut jobs. And like I said, Missouri was trying to end the ballot initiatives to redefine how amendments are done in the state. So that way, again, passed by the House, passed by the Senate, then put on the ballot for ratification by Missourians. But now you do a ballot initiative. You can go get enough signatures on a ballot, pay the registration fee. Then once the signatures have been verified, it goes on the ballot. And depending on the time of year that you're trying to get it passed, if I put this ballot initiative on the spring elections, it's almost guaranteed to pass because low voter turnout. Now, I don't know how this is going to fare in Missouri. I hope to God that it fails. But this wouldn't happen. But when the Missouri Senate, which keep in mind, Missouri Senate is a super majority Republican. The House is a super majority for Republicans. But the Democrats when it came to vote for this bill that would have ended ballot initiatives, started, we are feeling to filibuster because this is taking away Missouri's right to speak, to vote. No, it's not. It's passing amendments back in hands of the government, and then they get ratified by the voters. And then Missouri's rhino douchebag of a speaker went and did something unconscionable. He tabled it. A Republican in Missouri, gave the win to the Democrats because as long as we're tied up here, we're not getting another business of the state done. Really, dude? Really? So now, shortly after that gets tabled, suddenly this ballot initiative starts gaining traction because they really didn't want to do it when it was still at the risk of being undone. Or this ballot initiatives are like the ultimate circumvention of how a state's government is supposed to work. They are an end run around a republic form of government. It is direct democracy where the people tell the government 100% here is what you're going to do and how you are going to do it. That is what Chris Hayes wants when he talks about how bad and how awful and gross the Electoral College is. Because it is the government working the way it was designed. It is government being selected and apportioned and approved the way it was designed. And the way it was designed is to be a hindrance on the government, as well as a buffer on the population so that the population does not turn into a populist revolt that ends up overthrowing the government. There is a check and a balance going both ways. Got some stuff under my eyelid there. But yeah, the Democrats and specifically the very left of the Democrat Party hates the Constitution because it keeps them from being able to do what they want. But when they do get a law, like a ballot initiative law is theoretically great. Unfortunately, the people that take advantage of it to secure what they want are not conservatives. They're not libertarians because, hey, we want the government just to leave us alone. That's more libertarian. Conservatives, okay. The government that we have needs to be more efficient and take less of my money. But the Democrats think that they can have this balance of the government will jump when I say jump, as well as allow me to do, as well as tell me exactly how to live my life and to do what they want to do. It's a lot of mental gymnastics trying to make that one work out, and the math just don't math. So yeah, I'm hoping come November, these ballot initiatives, this Amendment 4 in Florida, this Amendment 3 here in Missouri, I hope they die. And after they die, I hope and I pray that we have some common sense within our state house here in Missouri and in Jeff City. They end ballot initiatives to keep crap like that, where it's written by Planned Parenthood and the other racist eugenist assholes who want to put abortion clinics where proportionally the most abortions are done, Black communities, because they want to live up to Margaret Sanger's credo, her hope, her dream of destroying and pulling out the human weeds. On that note, I'm going to wrap up this wonderful episode of the Tyler Morgan Show. If you are a subscriber on YouTube, again, thank you for subscribing. Please be sure, if you're not a subscriber, please be sure to like this video, share this video, and subscribe hit the bell for notifications, all that lovely jazz. If you are a new podcast listener, thank you for checking me out. I would ask that you please subscribe. It's the 4 things I ask every week. Please subscribe or follow, depending on what your podcast platform calls it. After that, please rate this show. I'm looking for 5 stars. I'll accept 4. 3 and below, we need to have a conversation. Be sure to DM me at Fake Tyler Morgan on the Twitters, and then you can discuss why you felt you need to give me 3 or less. Upon rating my podcast, please write a review, say something nice, fluff a little bit. Don't get carried away, just a little bit of fluff, just enough to kind of, hey, they could really kind of like this guy. Don't get creepy. Don't get crazy. Just a little fluff. Just a little fluff. Just a little. Once you have subscribed, rated, and reviewed, please share this episode. Send this episode of the podcast to someone who you think will love it. Better yet, send it to somebody you think, well, this will drive them absolutely nuts, will piss them off, because who's this conservative dude that they sent for me to listen to? That's great. Love it. If I could aggravate somebody if on your behalf, it just brings some warm and fuzzies to my heart. And I'm just happy to be your instrument of aggravation. I just love it so much. Thank you. So at this point, you have subscribed, liked, or rated, reviewed, and shared. And now you're just waiting every week for the new episode to arise. Thank you so much. And those of you who are the longtime listeners, thank you so much. You make this possible. Just even without, dumping a crap ton of money into it and having a crap ton of, sponsors and donors and Patreon followers, stuff like that. I love doing this. I do this for a whopping, carry the 1, divide by 3, $0. I made, in the name of transparency, I have made a whopping $80 in advertisements in 5 years, because I'm not a big voice. I ask that you share this. That way you can help grow the show. More people listen, more opportunities. And, y'all are awesome. Love talking with you every week, even though it's not really much conversation. It's me yelling at a microphone. Stupid mic, I'm going to kick you anyways. It's love doing it. Whether you're donating, whether you are, I really don't have the merch shop anymore, and Patreon, I felt that I need to close it down due to ideological issues with Patreon. But those of you who support the show, even just by listening and getting those numbers up, thank you so very much. It means the greatest. It means the most to me. It's awesome. Thank you very much. And as always, stay relentless. The Tyler Morgan Show is a Relentless Daring media production. The Tyler Morgan Show is supported by its listeners. To support the show, go to ko-fi.com/Tyler Morgan Show to donate there, or relentlessdaring.com and hit the donate button at the top of the page to set up your donation. All music used in the Tyler Morgan